Canada is once again bringing in tyrannical hate speech laws. This is, of course, nothing new. This is the reason that Jordan Peterson sprung to prominence when he said, well, we're going to have compelled speech in our constitution. Which
That's pretty communist.
sounds pretty communist to me. But last week, Canada's Department of Justice announced plans to add amendments to Canada's Criminal Codes and Human Rights Act to make online hate speech a crime. Oh, thank God, finally. If only we could criminalise the things people put on the internet, the world would be such a better place.
Yeah, because when you take a neo-Nazi and put him in prison for 10 years, he comes out a reformed, progressive individual.
And when you start persecuting random people for putting up, I don't know, rap lyrics and stuff like this...
Or women won't be quiet.
All these things that we've seen in the UK, that definitely makes people much more amenable to your political worldview.
Like their ideal version they're bringing in worsens things in what will happen, which is average people going to prison or court for basic statements. Makes everything worse. Yeah,
the regular person who isn't really very political and doesn't follow all of this will fall afoul of this, and they will get it. The proposals come after a 20-year-old man killed 4 members of a Muslim family in London, Ontario, on June the 6th. And according to the government, these constitute an important step towards creating a safe online environment that protects all Canadians from hate speech and hate crimes. Will help protect the vulnerable.
Sorry, do you think those people who died from hate speech?
Don't know. It's weird that there's a connection there, isn't there?
Like 4 people were murdered, and they're like, yeah, we'll protect all Canadians from hate speech.
Ban hate speech.
He didn't shout at them till they're dead.
Nope.
He murdered them.
Yep. But anything to help push along the agenda, though, isn't it? More top-down control. David Lametti, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, said, Canadians expect their government to take action against hate speech and hate crimes.
No, don't.
Have you asked them? Like, how do you know that? I know lots of Canadians who hate all of the things that are being done. Like, they don't seem to get a voice in this. These legislative changes will improve the remedies available to victims of hate speech and hate crimes. And will hold individuals accountable.
Victims of speech.
Victims of speech. Hate speech. Naughty words on the internet that victimize people. Practically violence. Essentially the same as running people down outside a mosque.
What's interesting as well is we've had this in the UK, and what ends up happening with the police is they spend all their time on that rather than the real crime. So all of a sudden, all your real crime will skyrocket because the police don't bother with it, because it's easier to get a conviction for speech.
It's also easier to patrol Twitter. Don't even have to leave the office. The actions we are taking today will help protect the vulnerable, empower those who are victimized, and hold individuals accountable for the hatred they spread online. It's starting to sound further and further away from actual problems as to more ideological control, isn't it? Spreading hatred online. Well, what's hatred? Well, the things we don't like. According to the Department of Justice, the amendments will enable people to seek damages from individuals writing on the internet, because that's what you need, damages. Because someone wrote on the internet, with offenders being fined up to 20,000 Canadian dollars. It's 11 grand, nearly 12 grand in English money, real money, sterling. 20 grand.
For a tweet.
For a tweet.
For a video.
Maybe a blog post.
I mean, your Doug's a Nazi only got £600.
No, it's £800.
£800.
Yeah, so £12,000. That's mad. Sounds like, I mean, that is just full-on tyranny, deliberate. And again, where are the leftists? Where are the leftists going? Well, any crime which can be punished by the form of a fine is actually a war on the poor. Because the rich people will just pay the fine and they'll carry on with their day, whereas the poor people will go to jail because they can't afford the fine. So is there not a class issue here now, leftists? Do you want to have a problem with that? Or is it more important?
The working class are far right, and they need to be fined 11 grand a day for their breach of the verbal morality statute.
Exactly. Is it more important to oppress the far right working class because they spread hate online? Because they're anti-progressive. The proposals do not cover social media specifically. The Canadian government has pledged to engage... Yeah, of course, they cover everything. You know.
What kind of cope is that?
Yeah. They've instead pledged to engage Canadians on a detailed technical discussion paper that will outline the proposal for making social media platform operators more transparent and accountable while combating harmful content online. The motion will include rules for how social media platforms address harmful materials such as hate speech, terrorist content, and content that incites violence.
Look at that. Look at what's standing out there: terrorist content that incites violence, speech.
Yeah. Just political talk. Bill Blair, the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, said that while the government was looking forward to hearing from Canadian citizens, while continuing to work with allies and social media platforms to prevent the internet from being used as a tool to incite and promote terrorism, violence and hatred, you've already got laws for this.
Terrorist content isn't legal in Canada.
Yeah.
Inciting violence in Canada is not legal.
Shocking.
I don't even have to look it up.
I already know it's not, yeah. But Stephen Guilbeault, I can't pronounce these foreign names, the Minister of Canadian Heritage said, online platforms are essential to participation in public life and have enormous power over online speech in Canadians' everyday lives. That's a great point, right? I'll stop there. That in and of itself is enough of a justification to create a law to prevent social media platforms from ever actually deleting an account. If anything, social media platforms shouldn't at this point be required to provide you with your account. This is your account. This is your login. You will never change that. You will have that forever, right? Because, as I said, it's central to participation in public life. If it's central to it, it must be guaranteed. It can't ever be taken away. That's the view that the Canadian government should be having. The Liberty view is that these things should be guaranteed then. But of course, no. While they allow us as Canadians to stay in touch with loved ones and learn and debate, they can also be used to discriminate, harm and silence. You can't harm someone with a social media platform.
Can't silence them either. Only the provider can do that.
Yeah, exactly. You can't say, exactly.
To discriminate? You discriminate every day.
Yeah,
if you talk to A, you're not talking to B. That's discrimination.
Exactly. In consultation with Canadian, I love the idea that the Canadian government has got to treat the Canadian public like it's some weird foreign entity. It's like, well, we're going to have to treat with them in some way. Maybe they can send us an elected representative with which we can deal to figure out
the government.
Yeah, exactly, to figure out what they want. Yeah, exactly. Like they're talking as if they aren't the elected representatives or something. It's really bizarre. But the Government of Canada is committed to taking action to put in place a robust, fair, consistent legislative and regulatory framework on the most egregious and reprehensible types of harmful content. This is why we'll engage in Canadians in the coming weeks and ask for feedback on specific concrete proposals. So the Canadians are basically going to say what they like, the government's going to do what they want, and they'll just cherry pick the things they want to hear. Bad luck, Canadians. The Department of Justice on the website reaffirmed its recognition of the importance of freedom of expression. They always say that, though. They always say that. Yeah, we're in favour of freedom of expression.
And that's why we're censoring more things.
Exactly. This is why we're taking away things that you're allowed to say. It said it would take a balanced and targeted approach to tackle the most extreme and harmful speech. Canada's constitution, which includes the 1982 Rights Bill, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, offers protection for freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Say goodbye to that. Specifically, Section 2 of the Charter states that the Canadian citizens are entitled to fundamental freedoms of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, opinion and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. However, they're going to be recognising this freedom by outlawing it, by allowing $20,000 fines, by telling you that actually we are going to tell you what you are and are not allowed to say.
I mean, I don't know the Charter of Rights
no, I don't know.
in particular, but usually what happens, so like we mentioned with the European Union, Article 10, you have the right to freedom of expression beyond borders and all the rest of it. Point 2, unless it's against the law.
Yeah, unless we say you can't.
And it's just like, right, so I didn't have them then.
No, it's a privilege, and it's a privilege that's going to get revoked in Canada. If you are, and you know that all of these rules, all of the laws, all of the things that are considered hateful, harmful, or terroristic, or whatever it is, will always cut one way. They were always cut against the right wing, against the Conservatives, and in favour of the progressives and the left. Because that's the basis, the framework of all of this stuff, is to essentially move the Overton window in such a position where you won't be able to move it outside of it by criminalising those things outside of a certain space.
Why is calling for a genocide of the kulaks, the rich, why is that not a bannable offence? Why is that not hate speech among the governments of the world?
But you can see that all over Twitter, all over Facebook, all over YouTube, and no censorship. But any kind of right-wing thought, as in, maybe there's an essential connection between sex and gender.
Women won't be quiet.
Bam. Literally misgender someone on Twitter, bam, gone. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.